Some of you were asking about chapter 15, the chapter that I had assigned for your holiday homework for term 2. And I'd like to clarify some things, some questions that you all had presented to me on Neo. It seems like some of them circled around the concept of validation. And I hope, if you weren't sure what that meant, that you went back to section 7.2 and revised the table that's there, because it did a good job of explaining it. But let me just kind of use task 15a to explain it also in my own words, and then I'm going to go back to 7.2 and we'll go through this as like a checklist. So task 15a, the data file in the data file gem.csv will be used both to create a database and in spreadsheet. Select the most appropriate validation type for the month field in this data. Okay, well, this is gem.csv, and what you need to understand is what validation really is. Would it make sense? I mean, if you're thinking about this column as being month, would it make sense to have a month of 70? No, right? Or a month of Z, or a month of something else. I don't know, something that doesn't make any sense, right? A month of 0 or -7. So that's validation. Is this data valid? And sometimes people can fat finger things, you know. You want to type in a 12 and you hit the 3 with your other finger or something. And so that happens a lot with data. And there's so much data that's entered that it's a problem, because we were humans, and sometimes you enter data and it just it's not what you want, and you overlook it because you have like 30 other entries to put in, and it sticks in the system and you have a problem. And it's something called garbage in, garbage out is part of that, at least. And you have to know about that. GIGO. Your data is only as accurate as you can enter it, as you've entered it. You know, you can't make it more suddenly more accurate later on. And so validation is an attempt to mitigate the careless human errors that happen when entering data in a computer or otherwise. The data file okay, and so let's look at the different techniques used in explained in it was actually chapter 7. I can't remember what page it was. Okay, so here it is in chapter 7. Verification, validation. It's talking about validation for task 15a, but I think it's good to review verification as well. It's very similar. Let's prevent errors from happening. So verification and validation are just attempts to prevent errors from happening. Verification comes in 2 different varieties you have to know about: double data entry and visual check. And so if you ever had an online form where you've had to put something in and then put it in again, most likely it's a password to, like, when you create an account for something, that is just a way to check, okay, is the first thing they put in the same as the second? And if it's not the same, it will let the user know. For visual check, it's really just you fill out a form and then they show the form to you again, and you just visually make sure that everything is correct. Of course, there's still errors that can be made. Okay, enough with the verification. Moving on to validation. And this is where we're going to find, this is what we've been asked to check to see which one's the most appropriate. I think that's the wording in the book. Which one is the most appropriate? There's probably some that are good candidates anyway, but only one's going to be the one that we would use. Okay. So the different checks here: validation check, range. It in our case would be checking to see if the month is within the appropriate values. So you would say, okay, is what's typed in here greater than 1, greater than or equal to 1, or less than or equal to 12? Okay. And if so, then, you know, allow it. If not, then make the box red or something. You can do something called conditional formatting in in Excel to do that. That's actually not necessary. That's not part of the GCSE curriculum, but there's ways that you can identify incorrect data. Oops, wrong one again. There we go. Lookup check. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense here because you would have it. Yeah, it just doesn't really make sense. You'd have to look it up against something else, and there's nothing else to look it up against. Well, let's just be clear here. So their example is check to see if senior manager exists as an option in the query, such as please enter your job title. So like there's probably senior manager, sales clerk, something on, and so you're on like there's only a set of like 5 things that could be possible answers, and if it doesn't match, then it'll flag it. I guess it's technically okay here. You only have 12 possible options, so it's going to check to see if it's 1, no, 2, no, 3, no, 4, no, 5, no, 6, no, 7. Okay, yes, 7's on the list, so there'd be like a list of 12 numbers, but that would be very tedious. You don't want a separate list of 12 numbers to check against to make sure that this is a member of that list. So lookup's kind of, yeah, it's inefficient. Length check checks the input data contains the required number of characters. So that would be like this is 1 character, that's 2 characters. So you could check to see, well, if there's 3 characters, like I said, if you fat fingered 123, then that would be a problem. But you could have a 2-digit. There's a problem, right? I mean, can you see that? You can check to see if it's 1 or 2 digits. What are some counter examples to that? Well, what's a 1-digit number that's not a month? 0. What's a 2-digit number that's not a month? Well, anything over 12, right? 13 and up. So for this purpose, yeah, length check doesn't quite work. Character / type check checks that the input data doesn't contain invalid characters. Now that's interesting because that was like that would filter out a Z. That would filter out a word or something. Even if a user typed in like March, it would filter that out because in this data, you know, in this column here, March would be humanly readable, but not necessarily relevant or usable, or yeah, I guess usable for the data. It's like if you wanted to, for some reason, find the most often occurring month, find the mode of this data, and you put March in, it wouldn't be counted towards that. So that's not the thing is, this is actually not a bad thing. It just doesn't filter everything. It wouldn't filter out the number 30. So it would filter out words or characters but not numbers. So it's a close, it's pretty good, but not 100%. Format / picture check. I don't think that's really, I mean, yeah, if they're asking for a date, like what it's saying here, you'd have to make sure that you have 2 digits for the days, then a slash, and then 2 digits for the month, and then a slash, and then the year. But they don't care about that. They just care about the month. They have the year handled separately anyway. So that doesn't quite work. Presence check checks to see if data is actually present and hasn't been missed out. Yeah, I mean, sure. If you just, you know, didn't have anything there, you could have some kind of thing saying, hey, can you please make sure that something's there? Or it would be in Excel, it's kind of weird. You would do some kind of conditional statement, maybe an if statement or something. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank, but there's definitely a way. In fact, I think you will have to learn about it when you do Excel, to see if there's anything there. Maybe count? Could you do a count? Count A. I think counts if there's anything there. You'll learn about it later. Anyway, but then you could just go back and put in like a J, and it would be, oh, okay, you've got something there, I'm happy. So that doesn't quite work. It's not what you want. presence check. Oh no, we just did that. Consistency check checks the fields correspond type with each other. So in this case, it's if Mr. has been typed into a field called title, then gender must be either M or male. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But that would be if you have two columns to relate to each other, and we don't. Okay, not really. So that doesn't quite work here. What would work is if there was like an age, or maybe is this a birth year? I guess this is a birth year. So if you are like, like very young, like let's say your age, which is like 15, and like there's a column for like driver question mark, and if there's like a Y, and imagine just that being Y's and N's. So if you have a kid that's born in 2010, and they're saying they're a driver, then oh wait, that doesn't jive because you're only 10 years old and you're saying you're a driver. So that would be a consistency check. Fail for that. But of course, for our case, it doesn't. There's no practicality there. Check digit. This is an extra digit added to a number which is calculated from the digits. So you may actually, we probably didn't cover that yet because of COVID. You haven't been in class. But check digit would be something like how ISBN numbers are validated. It's just to make sure that the digit is copied correctly. So it's not relevant here. It doesn't really make sense. So if you think about the options, and the book agrees with this, the best one is the range check. That's the easiest one, and it'll filter out anything that's not within the range of greater than 1 or greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 12. So that was one of the questions, kind of starting off with chapter 15, task 15A. Some very, man, so task 15B and task 15C. Oh, so let me see if I can go there real quick. So with these, create a database with the file gym.csv. Okay, well that's chapter 18 and we're in chapter 15. So I'm really not sure why they told you to do something when you have no clue how to do it. However, it is a task, and the way tasks work in your book is they're really just kind of like the task is saying, hey, this is what I want you to do, and then the following paragraphs is how to do it. Okay. Even it says here, using the methods shown in chapter 18, and blah blah blah. So I'm really not going to hold you guys to doing task 15B or even I think task 15C, add to the database, save in task 15B. Yeah. So don't worry about the database yet. Don't let that scare you. I think it's honestly kind of a misstep in the book. There's no way that you can do it because you haven't learned how to do it. It's kind of strange that they did that. So but you can do D. So task 15D, let me see is that one? Yeah. So D, right? That's create a spreadsheet with the file gym.csv. Okay, so whenever you talk about spreadsheet, that's Excel. Whenever you talk about databases, that's Microsoft Access. And you may not even have access on your computer. They're on the school computers, but not necessarily on your version of Microsoft Office. So you can pick up on task 15D. Validate the cells in rows 2 to 30 of the month column. Oh, cool. So they're going to basically do what we just did here, kind of like an if statement. It's greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 12. That's my guess, at least. I haven't read it yet. Oh yeah, look at that. Check it out. So there's even a validation feature of Microsoft Excel. So I was thinking that you would have to do like an equal sign and then maybe an if statement and then value of true, value of false. But you don't even have to do that. There's apparently a really nice thing in Excel that you get to learn about. Cool beans. That's the questions that I got, and I'm sure there's more. So I would like you to take this week to finish chapter 15, and that's it. So you can ask me questions on Neo, and I will attempt to get back to you fairly quickly. I usually, especially when school's in session, I do a good job of that. Some of you asked these questions a while ago, and I just wasn't around, or I was in a part of the country that's very remote, so there was no internet. So, but that's just how breaks go. So anyway, until next time, have a good day.